The cinema specialists are back, and today we are doing our top 10 Christmas movies since 1990. Yeah, that's right. Since 1990. We had to specify that because when John and I were trying to figure out what do we do for December? Got to do something for December. It's got to be Christmas related. What are we going to do for this? And we're like, well, we could do top 10 Christmas movies. It's like, okay, well, we're both just going to have It's a Wonderful Life at number 1. Everybody knows that. We've already done our top 100 movies. And it's like, okay, well, what then could we do? And so we finally landed on the best Christmas movie since 1990 because honestly, I feel like every time we get to Christmas season, I'm always trying to find movies that actually are new modern Christmas movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like they get harder and harder and harder and harder to find every year. I feel like they haven't really made that many. I know a lot of people say that Elf is the last unanimous holiday classic we've ever had. And I think that's a very fair point. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to talk about our top 10s each. I know that John, he's a masochist and he just loves to put himself through a bunch of misery every time we do one of these lists. I don't know why he doesn't understand that it's okay to just watch a little bit of it. He doesn't have to kill himself with this. But John, how many Christmas movies did you end up watching?
I've watched 24 in the last 2 weeks.
Like, here's my thing. I had a very easy 5 movies that were on my list. And then I was like, okay, I like these other 3. So then it came down to I needed 2 more. And then you and I decided that one movie should count. So that made it so I needed 1. And then I came up with the other one, which is a movie I haven't seen in a long time, as we talked about. But yeah, as my wife says here, you were watching Hot Frosty. Like, why do you do this to yourself?
Okay, Hot Frosty was a different thing altogether. That wasn't a, hey, I should watch this, see if it is one of the best Christmas movies since 1990. That was a, hey, I'm going to sit down with my friends and watch this very bad movie and see just how bad it is. Mm-hmm. Different story.
How bad was it? Oh, my internet cut out. I hope it's mine.
Okay. It was surprisingly enjoyable, you know.
Oh, maybe it was your internet that cut out. Somebody's internet.
My internet. My internet is not cooperating very well right now, so I think it's mine.
Oh, okay.
Hot Frosty was surprisingly more enjoyable than I thought, but it was definitely one of those movies you have to watch with a group of friends who are ready to make fun of it at every possible moment in order to be enjoyable.
Gotcha. Well, I've never seen it. I'm never going to see it. We're going to start talking about some of these movies now, though. And so the only requirements that we really had were, obviously it had to be since 1990, but the other one was Christmas movie. It couldn't simply just take place at Christmas. Christmas had to be a big part of the movie. So like I had argued Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. She wears a Santa hat in it. You know, it's set at Christmas time. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang, ultimately, we're not counting as a Christmas movie. We also didn't count, what was the other? Oh, Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut.
That's a Christmas time movie, but that's not a Christmas movie. We do have a movie on here that we decided is a Christmas movie because of when it takes place, how it takes place, what the themes of the movie are, even though it kind of falls more in line there. Most of my movies on here are family movies. And I know John had a really hard time being okay with just the family oriented Christmas movies. And he also put himself through the ringer because there's only one thing worse than listening to or than watching all of these Christmas movies, and that's listening to Christmas music and different variations of the same songs. So yeah, like as Brendan Pfeiffer says, like Rocky and Rocky 4 are not Christmas movies. There's no way. Those are boxing movies. Those are sports movies. So I think for us, the main genre had to be Christmas, or like it had to be so close to the main genre, as you'll see as we get to one of ours. A lot of my stuff, let me see, I have every single one of my movies, with the exception of 2, either has Santa Claus or Christmas in the title.
Wow, that's actually kind of impressive, in all honesty. Mine is not like that.
Yeah.
I think I have only 4. Only 4 of mine have those same criteria.
Okay. So you're on like a 4-second delay. John's going to leave this and then come back in, and he's going to be at a better thing. So leave and come back. And then we're going to dive into our top 10. So I'm just going to give him a second to come back in because it was going to just take it. He was going to be on a little bit of a delay. I think his internet caught back up, but now he was just dealing with it being a little bit off. So here he is. What's up, John? How you doing? Are you on time now?
I sure hope so.
Okay, yeah, you're back. Okay, that we're good. Here we go. You want to start? I feel like you had to watch
Sure.
24 movies. You should get to go first.
Sure. So I think one of the big things with Christmas movies, and one thing I really realized watching all these Christmas movies is because I actually elicited help with this. Because I mean, truth be told, Christmas not my favorite like subgenre of film. And I kind of like stick to my usual ones, and that's it. So I needed to broaden my horizons a bit. So I elicited a lot of help. And it made me realize Christmas, like the Christmas movie subgenre, may be the biggest subgenre of film that people do not care about the quality of film that they are watching. It is so nostalgia based. It is so like it's very focused on emotional response to things and the way that a movie makes you feel. That's what makes these enjoyable Christmas movies. And as we get into Christmas movies, we have all these different subgenre of Christmas movies, right? Like we have the family comedy, we have the mature comedy, which has become more prevalent over the years. We have the Christmas drama, we have the Christmas horror films. But I think like one of the big staples of the Christmas genre is the Christmas rom-com. And despite how absolutely problematic this movie is, how like it's not a good movie, it is one of those ones that I watch every year. It just has that feeling that I enjoy it despite all its shortcomings. My number 10 is Love Actually.
You watched 24 movies and you couldn't find better ones than Love Actually, huh?
Again, like this is one of the ones that just really hits me. I if you look at my ratings for Love Actually over the years that we have been doing, like using Letterboxd and stuff, it stays at 2 stars most of the time. Because a lot of times I base it off of quality. And this time, with all of these movies, and as I was watching all of these different Christmas movies, I realized in order for me to properly fill out this list, I had to go by vibes instead of just quality of film. And Love Actually is one of those movies that the vibes hit. Again, super problematic, like lots of fat shaming in that movie, like some very toxic depictions of love that it's supposed to make you admire and things like that.
No, it's Love Actually, John. You just don't know that. It's just Love Actually.
I know, but in the end, it does have that heartwarming feel to it. It does just kind of put a smile on my face. And it's one of those ones that, despite how, as I delve more and more into film, like, hey, this is not one of my favorite Christmas movies.
But it still makes your top 10.
Barely. It's just number 10.
But still, it made your top 10. I mean,
it did. And again, like this is also nostalgia driven, right? Like this is
you gave it 3 stars on your last viewing.
Yeah, because I based it more on vibes than I did on quality of film this time.
I hate Love Actually. I think it's such a slog, man. Movie's so boring. I give it 2 stars. I'm probably too high on it. I pretty much give it 2 stars because of Bill Nighy's stupid song that gets stuck in my head every time. Every single time that like I get like a hand cramp or I pick something up or anything ever happens that involve my hands, I think I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes. Also, it has Keira Knightley, so that gives it an automatic half star. And then it has Alan Rickman, which kind of gives it another half star. So there's your 2 stars. Love Actually is the Christmas movie that absolutely drives me nuts. Like it is the one that I can't get behind. And like, I'm very big, like you were saying, quality of movie does not matter when it comes to Christmas movies. And I 100% agree with that. I don't think it matters really at all. I think people are willing to put everything aside because at the end of the day, a Christmas movie is just something that you're supposed to be able to watch with your family. And that's it. And I just think Love Actually is just a cringe fest. And it also set in motion arguably the worst genre of film, which is the ensemble romantic comedy. That is the worst genre of film. New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, whatever, Valentine's Day. I think they have a St. Patrick's Day. They're all so awful. They're so awful. I hate those movies. So anyway, yeah, Love Actually started that, and I'll never forgive it.
I get it. I get those complaints, but again, like I don't think this is a perfect movie by any means. It's just one that I watch, and as I've grown older, as a younger person, this was one where I was like, oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice? As I grow older, all I can look at this and be like, man, I'm so glad my love life isn't like any of these people. Right? Like, and it's interesting to watch this movie as a perspective. And I think Christmas movies in general, because again, because it's so nostalgia driven, you can watch them and grow up and change the way you watch them. And Love Actually is one that I've been able to change the way I watch and still enjoy it for what it is at the same time.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment of that movie.
And like the Christmas rom-com, wild genre. Like,
yeah, it is.
It is all over the place, and there's always some weird twist. It's kind of nice there not being some weird twist, and just apparently, airport security at Heathrow very down right after 9/11, but that's fine.
Hey man, they wrote it before 9/11. That's the biggest problem.
It literally it refers to 9/11 at the beginning of the movie.
Okay, that's also true. Anyway, I gave all of these, my top 10 all have 2.5 stars. I'm more of an optimist than John. Also, he did give that one 3 stars, so technically it's higher rated than this one, but I think I probably enjoyed this movie more than John enjoys his. This was a favorite of mine when I was a child. As I've grown older, it is super cheesy, super corny, but at the end of the day, it does what a Christmas movie is supposed to do, and that is just like put a little twist on the Santa Claus story. And that's the Santa Claus. I feel like, you know what? Tim Allen in the 90s, he had a thing going on. He was making a bunch of movies. Good for him. This movie, it's the whole story of Santa falls off the roof. And because Scott Calvin is the one who makes him fall off, also happens to have the initials of Santa Claus. How ironic. Scott Calvin is the one who makes him fall off the roof. He now has to take over as Santa Claus. And it gets into like that whole thing. It's super sappy towards the end, but the elf stuff was always fun for me. And so therefore this movie, which came out in, what is this? 1993,
94, I think.
Was it 94? Yeah. You should know better, cause I know you watched it. Yeah. So 1994, it's good. It's fine. I like it enough. And therefore it gets to come in here as my number 10.
I haven't seen the Santa Claus until those last 2 weeks for a very long time.
Yeah.
And in rewatching it, like it was hanging around the bottom of my list for a long time. And ultimately, like I just got to the point where I found a couple that ended up pushing it out. It's an interesting take on, like you said, the Santa Claus. I like that it's just running with the pun of the name Claus and throwing an E on the end and like talking legal mumbo jumbo with it all. What I found really interesting is Scott Calvin is the one promoting the idea that Santa is real the entire movie.
Yeah.
To his kid. And usually in these type of movies, like the central figure who is like the lead role character in it is the curmudgeon-y Scrooge type who like doesn't believe in Christmas. And it's just so weird and kind of refreshing to
all right, John cut out again. Oh, there
it's just a very interesting take on. Oh no,
you're okay. Keep going. It's a very interesting take on.
Okay, cool. It's just a very interesting take on like the Christmas story and how it's not what we would normally expect. It is subverting our expectations a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And Brennan Pfeiffer here says, or Pfeiffer, I don't know. The Denny's bit is classic. Like, yeah, it has its good moments. It really does. It has some solid moments. It's a fun movie. It's a fun Christmas movie. It's not great, but it's good. And honestly, it's crazy that it took until 1994 for somebody to add an E to the end of Claus and make a movie called The Santa Claus and make it literal. And also ironic that a man named Judge is in a movie about the claws of Santas. So there we are.
Yeah, but Judge Reinhold's character in that, it's so funny the way the movie frames it, because you're kind of made to believe that Tim Allen's character is kind of the unreasonable parent. And watching it again as a parent is the big thing, right? Like, well, I'm not a parent. No, I'm not a parent. No, I'm not. But as an adult, and seeing this through a parent's eye, where like we're kind of meant to believe that Tim Allen's character is the unreasonable parent, and Scott is the good, and Scott, the stepdad, is like the reasonable one, telling his kid, "Hey, Santa doesn't exist," and stuff like that. And then as we progress through the story, it's so noticeable that Judge Reinhold's character is terrible, just like an awful person.
Yeah. until at the end when he says Santa like a child, and that was the best take they could get. So they were like, all right, moving on. Keep going. All right. I'll jump to my number 9. I have the movie that John hated the most out of all of his watch, which is pretty much the only reason I put it on here because I haven't seen it in a long time. But, let's make John uncomfortable. I have Bad Santa. And I do remember liking this as when I was a little bit younger. I think the last time I saw this was probably right after college. I find this movie, I like mean-spirited humor. I really do. I'm a big mean-spirited humor guy. And a lot of this doesn't age very well, being that the movie was made in 2003. There are certain things that you're not going to get away with saying and everything, but I like the mean-spirited humor. I like Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, it's not as funny as people made it seem when it came out originally, but I liked it enough.
I did not like this movie. And like part of it, again, like this is not the type of movie that I would normally seek out. It's fine. Like Billy Bob Thornton, I enjoy Billy Bob Thornton. But this movie is just so shallow in its presentation of everything, and it really could build towards something. There's this husk of a film where it could be endearing and it could be more than, hey, look, Santa's swearing the entire time. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, it kind of does just come down to Santa's swearing and having sex the entire movie.
Yep. Which sometimes that's funny.
Which is fine. That's why you enjoy it during your holiday season. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I just felt like it could have used just that little bit more of a push. It's also like a little. It is really awkward watching this movie 20 years later.
It is. I will give you like the last. I mean, it definitely does not age all that well, and also like some of the humor is just so over the top with some of the offensive stuff, and it is a one-note movie. But again, this is a 2.5-star movie. Like I don't have it any higher than that. It's just when you're starting to rank these movies, it's like I'm not putting the Polar Express in here. I'm not putting any of those in here. So yeah, that's that.
Yep.
All right, you get to do your number 9.
Yeah, my number 9 is very much a nostalgia pick, and it is like my favorite Christmas movie growing up, and the one that I watched way too many times. It's Jingle All the Way. This Arnold Schwarzenegger led family Christmas comedy is so funny. It is so fun. I think it really pokes at different aspects of the Christmas themes that don't normally get poked at. This is the one that I think really kind of epitomizes the idea of like the consumerism of the holiday and how it overshadows the family aspect. This is it really well in the film, where first off, Arnie's hilarious the entire movie. Like even like Jake Lloyd pre Anakin Skywalker is funny, and you get Phil Hartman as well is absolutely amazing in this movie. You get Sinbad being Sinbad and doing it in a way that it feels really good, and it's just I don't know, the idea of like it's kind of the same idea as the Santa Claus, except instead it is like the curmudgeon-y dad who just wants to spend more time with his kid, and then he becomes a superhero instead of Santa Claus.
Kevin Hernandez, Phil Hartman generally gives an amazing performance. What's funny for me with Jingle All the Way is I didn't watch this movie when I was young. Yeah. And therefore, with no nostalgia attached to it, I don't like this movie. Like it doesn't do it. It's not that I dislike this movie. It just doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. Because I ended up watching this movie for the first time when I was like 20 years old almost, like I think I watched it in college for the first time. Just didn't do it for me. But I understand why people who grew up watching this movie would love this movie and consistently watch this movie every single Christmas season. So, yeah, Jingle All the Way. It's good. Didn't make my list, but it's good. It's just like, I don't know, like the nostalgia factor not being there. And you did talk about this off the top. Nostalgia is such a big part of this genre. If you don't get nostalgia for these movies, what can we make, what works? And I do think that's also why it's been difficult for any movies to really break in the last 20 years into like your normal rotation, because you don't have nostalgia built in. And these movies you watch them one time of year. And if you already have your rotation with your grandparents, with your parents, then all of a sudden that becomes your child's movies. It's hard to fit another movie into that rotation when you're only watching it once a year. And if you miss it, you miss it. It's gone. And so that's what's funny with Jingle All the Way. I just missed it. I missed it when I was a kid, and that was that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this probably doesn't make my list if I didn't own it on VHS growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's just one of those movies that's like, yeah, I've watched this movie many times. And that's the other interesting thing. We talk about movies we have seen so many times over and over.
You said over and over, and then you cut out. So I'm just waiting.
I was just saying, like, some of these Christmas movies are probably some of my most watched movies of all time. Like, the movies that I've seen the most times over are some of these Christmas movies because I just watch them every year.
I think if I were to go to my profile, let me see here, because you know, I'm a patron of Letterboxd. Like that's where I'm at right now. Holy crap, my Drive Away Dolls review has five likes. I wrote that in February. Why are people still liking that? Anyway, so on here you could check your stats if you're a patron over on Letterboxd, and it tells you like your most watched movies and all of that stuff. And my top movies are, you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
The Muppet Christmas Carol, It's a Wonderful Life, A Christmas Carol, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Elf, and the only other one that I've watched 3 times, Planet of the Apes. So since I started tracking on Letterboxd, 6 of my top 7 movies are Christmas movies. That's funny.
I think it's something we don't really think about, but we just watch these movies over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you need to be willing to watch them a lot in order for it to work. So anyway, all right. So that was your 9. What do you have at number 8?
Well, no, speaking of movies that we've watched over and over again, I have never seen this movie before the last 2 weeks. And let me tell you, it was so much better than I thought. It is a very Harold and Kumar Christmas.
Dude, so this is coming up. And for anybody who hasn't seen this in a long time, John and I are going to be doing this as our $5 Tuesday on the 10th. So next Tuesday, a very Harold and Kumar Christmas. I am so happy that I remembered this movie because I hadn't seen this in so freaking long. And I watched it in college. It came out when I was in college. And then as we were doing this list, I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God, they made a Harold and Kumar Christmas movie. I forgot they made that. And so I went and I rewatched it and I was like, yeah, that movie's great. Love it every second. And the best part about this movie, John, and I know it's your turn to talk about it because I have it a little bit higher, but the best part about this Christmas movie is that it takes place right at the end of the 3D era. And there are so many 3D jokes that just remind you what a disaster 3D was. And I'm so happy Harold and Kumar just ripped it apart.
Yeah, this was a movie that you had suggested. And I was like, you're just making a joke. There's no way this movie is as good as you're making it out to be. It was. This movie had me busting a gut the entire time. It's so funny. What's really nice about this movie in particular, when we're looking at a Christmas movie, is I think there are these themes with Christmas that we often associate. And a lot of them are like this family love, I think, theme that we get. We have the like childhood wonderment and the consumerism, and there's the religious and spiritual stuff as well. But what a very Harold and Kumar Christmas does is it asks that question: hey, what happens when you grow up and you don't spend time with your friends anymore? And we've seen it in other Christmas movies as well, like The Night Before that tackles it as well, which is one that just missed my top 10. And quite frankly, it's because a very Harold and Kumar Christmas, I think, does it just that much better with going a bit more over the top. The plot of this movie is absolutely ridiculous. John Cho and Kalpan are so funny, and they just play these characters so well. And you kind of forget that it had been 6 years since Guantanamo Bay came out before this, and there hadn't been a Harold and Kumar movie for a while. It's ridiculous. It's raunchy. There are jokes in here that you probably shouldn't even mention on a YouTube channel, because they are so ridiculous. But it just, at its heart, is also this story of these two friends who have drifted apart, kind of realizing, hey, why did we drift apart? We enjoy spending time together.
Yeah.
And this is what the holiday season is about, is bringing people back together.
Yeah. So This one, yeah, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. I don't have it much higher. I don't have it as my number 8. I literally have it as my number 7. So we're going to get, we're going to get to that
Mhm.
point in not much longer. So maybe I can just gloss over it when we get there. But there was something about the fact that the Harold and Kumar movies are stoner comedies that literally are just a bunch of race jokes the entire time.
Yeah.
And John Cho and Cal Penn lean into it so hard. Danny Trejo is in this movie, and he leans into it so hard. And like everybody involved just leans in, and it's so funny. And then you have Neil Patrick Harris pretending that he's not gay. His real husband is in this movie, and he's yelling at him about using his tongue when they're kissing. And he's trying to get all the women, and he's trying to sleep with all the women who are in his like music production and stuff. And I think like what was funny about the Harold and Kumar movies is it was saying like, okay, the stoners are like wasting away all of that, but it was just leaning into like all the stereotypes and everything like that, but doing it in a way that was like everybody who was involved was so in on the joke that you can't help but laugh your ass off the entire time that it's happening. And I don't know, they made a Christmas movie that is nothing but race jokes and 3D jokes. And it works the entire time. Like it works the whole time. And then obviously there's a baby on cocaine and also smokes pot and does Molly. So, there's that. And that's fun too.
Yeah, it's just and the 3D jokes are one of the things that like as I was watching, it's like, oh right, this movie was in 3D, and watching it now, just so funny to see. The way that things were shot for 3D was so ridiculous, and we had it the first time the craze came around in like the 80s. I'm thinking like something like Friday the 13th Part 3, which is like very much like shot for 3D, and you watch it now and it's absolutely ridiculous. This does it, but you could also tell they knew how ridiculous it was when they were doing it, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, exactly. They're cracking the camera. They're pretending to crack the camera as things pop out. Like the first 3D effect, I think, in the entire movie is the joint, right? Or one of the first of that effects is the joint going out the window and coming out into the audience and then going back. Like, and you can watch this movie now, not in 3D, and it still works and it's hilarious. So, all right. Well, I already told you that
it might be funnier without 3D.
It probably is because it's making 3D jokes and like it just highlights how stupid 3D was. Like 3D was always stupid. It was always dumb. So anyway. All right, my number 8, and I say this with no shame. Okay, none. I think that this movie is supremely underrated. I think it gets hated on way too much. It has one of the worst moments in film history. But aside from that, I think it's a perfectly serviceable movie with a really, really great lead performance. And that is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I have no shame in saying this. I feel like people hate on this movie so much for no reason. I feel like the set design is great. Ron Howard is bringing a Dr. Seuss film to life. Jim Carrey's performance is, dare I say, iconic. I don't know if you could actually name a performance that more people have seen ever than Jim Carrey's performance in The Grinch. I do think that this is probably one of the top 10 most seen performances in film history. Not even joking. I know people don't necessarily love the makeup and everything because it's essentially just turning the Who's into humans with weird noses, but I don't mind it. And I think that it's all there. It's got, it's about your consumerism being bad and everything. Yes, it's taking the simplistic, classic cartoon from like the 60s and turning it into a feature-length movie. I think it works. And every year I sit down, I watch this. I'm thoroughly entertained. I enjoy it the entire time. Again, like I said, Carrie's great. If only it didn't have Where Are You Christmas? My God, that could go down as bottom 5 moments in a film. Like that scene, poor Taylor Momsen, this movie literally like ruined her life. And then she ended up being in, what was the band she was in? She was in The Pretty Reckless, still is in The Pretty Reckless. But like this movie just was like, okay, I am now going to lean in super, super hard into just kind of being weird. But anyway, that song, absolutely horrible. But here we are.
This is, I think, one of those big, this missed me as a kid, and I have no nostalgia for it. So I watch it and I absolutely hate it.
I believe that. I mean, that's fair. A lot of people hate this movie.
I just find that, like, I watched it last year for the first time in a long time. So let me pull up my Letterboxd review here. But I do remember saying about Where Are You Christmas, having a child sing out of key is not cute, and it is in fact a terrible decision.
Yeah. Let's get John's review. I appreciate this.
It's like not a Ron Howard fan, if I'm being real.
I don't like Ron Howard at all, to be completely honest. I think he made Apollo 13 is very good. What other good ones has Ron Howard made? Ron Howard hasn't really, I mean, I dislike A Beautiful Mind very much. I talk about that a lot. That is such Hollywood schmaltz. Let me see. Ron Howard. What are his movies that I actually enjoy? You got to go far. Apollo 13. Cinderella Man is very good. I actually think Frost Nixon is quite good. That was a pretty underrated one. If you haven't seen Jim Henson Idea Man, I've seen the first 3/4 of that. That's very good. That came out this year. Yeah. Anyway, what do you got? Anything else? I'm trying to let you in. I think you're delayed again by a little bit.
Am I delayed?
Maybe not. That came in pretty quick, so maybe
not. My review for this movie is there's almost no redeeming qualities for this movie. It is not entertaining in the slightest, save the young Grinch sequence. Intentionally getting a child to sing poorly doesn't add emotion other than how cringy it is to think someone actually decided that was a good idea.
See, Jim Carrey's performance is redeeming, though, so that's an incorrect review.
Well, okay, fine. But my opinion of this movie is so low that I didn't even bother watching it over the last 2 weeks because I knew it didn't stand a chance of making my list.
Yeah, and this was one this was a massive box office success. This really was. This is when people were like, "Oh my God, Christmas movies are back," and this was in 2000. And I think honestly, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's actually, I need to bring this up because it's actually ridiculous how high this is, box office all time. It's actually quite absurd. So it made $260 million domestically. But remember, it made that in 2000. So like when you adjust that, so what all time in Thanksgiving weekends, it's 12th all time still. Not even adjusted for inflation. It's still 12th all time. And that's after Moana 2 just made $139 million this weekend. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I got for that. I think John died.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my next one, as I've already said, is, I mean, I'm going to run out of space on here. All these titles are so long. Is A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. We already talked about this one a lot. I don't need to talk about it more. Comes in as a 3-star movie, just ahead of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So that's my number 7. So John, why don't you jump in and do yours?
All right, now we're getting to the point where you find out how much I dislike Christmas because I started having just like dramas with a couple of other things sprinkled in. But my number 7 is one I hadn't heard of, and I found it this time, and it really surprised me. It's The Family Man.
This is with Nicolas Cage, correct?
Yeah, this is a movie that I know, after watching it, I kind of equate it to like a reverse It's a Wonderful Life situation. So I guess it's kind of more like a Christmas Carol, sort of, where Nicolas Cage plays this like Wall Street guy who then for some reason gets, like, on Christmas Eve is shown this reality if he decided to go back and be with his like college girlfriend and stay with her, what their life would be like. And a lot of it is him adjusting to it and like still trying to be this Wall Street guy. And eventually it just comes around to him realizing that despite not having as much money as he would and everything, it's the family aspect of everything that really matters. And Despite the fact that this movie takes place over like 3 months, it actually only takes place on Christmas Eve because it's very interesting.
All right. John needs to boot himself and come back in. Let's see.
I quite enjoyed it. And Nicolas Cage turn of the century.
John's got to leave and come back. All right. He was about to talk about Nicolas Cage at the turn of the century. Normally his internet's quite good. I guess Canada's doing rolling blackouts or something tonight. Poor guy can't get anything going. Come on, John. Come on, John. Come on, John.
I'm back. Okay.
Nicolas Cage, turn of the century.
Nicolas Cage, turn of the century is just fantastic. Like, he was firing on all cylinders at this time. Not quite, but almost.
At least you're being thematic, though, John.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going for.
Did you go back to Bella Coola? Is that what happened? Are you in Bella
God,
Coola
no.
today?
Trust me, I wouldn't even be able to be on this live stream if I was in Bella Coola.
I've actually never seen The Family Man. That was a movie I'd heard about way back when it came out and never hit my radar. That also came out in 2000. And I actually think that, so what was the opening weekend? The Family Man, Nicolas Cage opening weekend, because this is actually probably interesting. Oh, it came out. Oh, what? What year did this movie come out? No, it's 2000. Why is okay? AI. This is why AI will never take over the world. The Family Man, starring Nicolas Cage, was released in the United States on July 28th, 2017. That's not correct. Thanks a lot, AI. Thanks for nothing. This movie, when was it released? I want to see when it was. So it was released in. Oh my God. Why is it like not easy to find? Oh, so it was released in December of 2000.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was never going to be able to compete with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Everybody went out and saw How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, this is a more dramatic movie, right? Like, this isn't the movie that you're taking your kids to see. This isn't a movie that kids are going to resonate with. They're not going to be like, yes, I don't want to be an investment banker. I want to live in the suburbs of New Jersey.
Hey, the suburbs of New Jersey are sick. That's where I grew up. I'm allowed to insult Canada. You can't insult the suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm not saying that it isn't a good thing. I'm saying kids probably aren't thinking it's a good thing.
The suburbs of New Jersey suck. Okay. But yes, I've never heard of it. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. And I do remember that poster quite well from Blockbuster. So there was something about that poster that really resonated. Also, if you're watching this video right now, please like and subscribe. I think that was the most we ever had watching live for a movie podcast, probably since we were doing the top 100. So if you were watching live, like this video, please make sure to like this video. Let's try to get us into the algorithm here a little bit better now that we're doing Christmas movies. All right, John, what do you have as your number 6?
My number 6 is A Muppet Christmas Carol. Lovely.
It's actually, isn't it The Muppet Christmas Carol? Let's see.
Yes, it is The Muppet Christmas Carol.
It's very important.
It is, yeah. It's just such a fun take on this class. This is probably the story.
Yep, you're back now.
This is probably the Christmas. This is probably the Christmas story that has been given the most adaptations in this time period that we're discussing right now. And the way the Muppets did it at the beginning of this time period still stands the test as the best since then. It takes the seriousness of A Christmas Carol, puts Michael Caine in the role of Ebenezer Scrooge, and adds the Muppets, which gives it this fun aspect to it while still maintaining the same old themes and darkness that A Christmas Carol has.
Yeah, I mean, Muppet Christmas Carol. Oh my God, John.
Did you forget to put it on your list?
Dude, I didn't need to put after. John, I butchered it. That's the one that's missing. That's the one I knew I had 10.
Wow.
I knew I had 10. But so here's a little behind the scenes, everybody. Okay. And this is not being prepared. John and I recorded the Muppet Christmas Carol for our patrons today. And because of that, I had crossed it off my damn list. I crossed it off my list on the sticky notes, and I'm staring at it right now. And that's why I included the Santa Claus. So, while John's internet is crapping itself, you all actually got a top 11 from me.
Oh, there you go.
There you go, everybody. Congratulations. You did it. Oh my God, dude, that's so funny. Well, apologies, everybody. That's my bad. John, I'm Up at Christmas Carol is going to be on my top. So the Santa Claus is my 11. Bad Santa is my 10. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is my 8. A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas is my 7. And then I can get into the rest. So I'm getting an extra movie in. You there?
And sorry, where did Muppet Christmas Carol come then?
I haven't said where mine's going to be yet. I mean, I just know that it's going to be in there. I messed up. I did mess up, man. I'm annoyed with myself for that because I had it and I literally crossed it off. That is so funny. Okay. Anyway. All right. I get 11 movies.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So you were talking about the Muppet Christmas Carol. I interrupted you. What were you saying about the Muppet Christmas Carol?
Again, classic Christmas story. And you throw the Muppets in, it just makes it really good. And the Muppets were firing on all cylinders in the 90s, despite the fact that Jim Henson died during the pre-production of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to answer Jayburn Aquatic's question here of one of y'all has to have Scrooge on your list, 88 doesn't make the cut, unfortunately. Yeah. It is excluded because we couldn't keep it.
Mm-hmm.
But in lieu, we do have a Muppet Christmas Carol, which it's just, there are jokes in this movie that are so small. They're just so funny. Mm-hmm. But got into them a little bit more on the Patreon for tomorrow with our $5 Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. Oh my God, dude. I am a mess right now. Look at the bottom ticker right now. Anybody who's wondering, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is coming through at 9. Yeah, it's coming through at 9 and 8 for me. I'm a mess, man. I'm telling you, it's all falling apart all by itself. Okay. All right. So you have the Muppet Christmas Carol at 6. I will jump in now at my number 7. Now we're actually doing my number 7. And again, everybody, sorry about that. You just got me talking about one extra movie that I thought I had ranked higher than I really did. I have Home Alone. So I like Home Alone, and Home Alone is one of those where it's like, is it a Christmas movie? And then we were like, nah, it's definitely a Christmas movie. Like, it definitely counts. For a second, it was, should we count that just in case? Like, are we getting too broad there? But then at the end of the day, it's like, that's a full blown Christmas movie. Family's going on Christmas vacation. It's about like the spirit, it's about like the joy of Christmas and all of that fun stuff. And John at the time, before he had gotten all the way through his 24 movies, was like, yeah, this is my number 1 right now, so it better be a damn Christmas movie. So I have Home Alone at 7. It's the classic. And I rewatched number 2 last Christmas as well. The problem with number 2 is it doesn't get into the fun antics with the Wet Bandits until too long into the movie. And the first movie takes a little bit to get into the Wet Bandits as well, but it gets to the point of the kid being home alone very quickly. And it's just like, I think this is like one of the most ultimately, one of the ultimate classics of the genre. So yeah, I have this as number 7. It's like the ultimate family holiday movie.
Yeah, movies that were better than it. In fact, it's the next movie on my list is Home Alone. Mm-hmm. Number 7 now.
Wait, what? John, I lost you again.
Huh? What?
I don't know. What happened?
I know. I don't know what's going on today. My internet does not like me whatsoever, apparently.
Did you just put Home Alone as your number 5?
Yeah, Home Alone is my number 5. It is actually on my number 5 on my list. So it was the next movie I was going to talk about. And what it comes down to, again, is like this idea of like this movie is set at Christmas, but it's really playing off this theme of family. And that is the entire movie is so much about family. Yes, there are these crazy antics. Yes, there's the wet bandits and everything. And I'd argue that the wet bandits are set up at the very beginning of this movie, considering, you know, literally the first scene of the movie has Joe Pesci in it. But this is a movie that I wasn't too high on over the years, and like it kind of ebbs and flows for me. It's been getting better year over year for me. And this year was the one where I was like, no, I really enjoy this. And a lot of it comes from the fact that there's so much attention to detail in this movie. Especially when it comes to when you watch that opening sequence, you understand exactly how they ended up forgetting Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
It makes perfect sense. And everything leads to it perfectly. You can follow along so well. And then you have this child who's like, yes, I'm finally free of my family. And as he gets to the end of the film and the climax and finally realizes how much he loves his family and how much he wants his family there, honestly, it brings a tear to my eye. It's just one of those really heartwarming films.
Yeah, it really is. It's more of a heartwarming film than it really has any business being. I think that's what's so cool about Home Alone. Like Home Alone is a fun movie. It's the movie. And when I was talking about the wet bandits, what I'm saying is like when he actually starts to retaliate against the wet bandits, where he starts to like pull pranks on them, that happens pretty far into the movie. In the second one, it doesn't happen until way too far into the movie. But I do feel like what works in this one is the story the entire time is very interesting, and it's a movie that like parents are going to enjoy watching because it's silly and it's over the top. Kids are going to love it because they get to watch people like hit their heads and get burned, and you know it's all the Looney Tunes type humor. So that works. And yeah, so I have it at number 7. I have to catch up to you now, John, because I'm so far behind you. So let me do a little catch up here. So my number 6. I actually have a movie called Arthur Christmas, and I don't know how many people have seen this one. Probably not that many, because I feel like this is one that really went unnoticed for a long time. So Arthur Christmas is a movie that came out in 2011. So same year actually as Harold and Kumar, and it's an Aardman movie. And this movie does not get any love at all. And I saw this in theaters and I remember enjoying it. And then I just rewatched it the other day and I was like, oh my God, how is that not a Christmas classic? Like it just absolutely should be a Christmas classic. It's frustrating that it's not. The animation is gorgeous. It looks amazing. The voice acting is great. It puts a nice twist onto it puts a very nice twist onto this genre of movie. I don't know what's happening to my computer. If you guys could see my screen right now, it is insane. So hopefully I come back in a second here. But it is a really fun twist on it. And so what the entire premise of this movie is at the North Pole, Santa Claus, like it's not just that there's one Santa Claus, there's a bunch of Santa Clauses. And so all of the Santa Clauses keep on rotating. And there's Arthur Christmas, who's the second son of the current Santa Claus. So the current Santa Claus is supposed to retire. You have Steve, who is the oldest son, who is supposed to take over for Santa. He thinks he's taking over this year. He's the one who makes Christmas go off without a hitch. But Arthur is the one with Christmas spirit. And so what happens in the movie is they forget one kid. And now Arthur has to go out with Grand Santa, who is the older Santa Claus. And he has to get the present to the child. It's such a fun, heartwarming, silly, over-the-top movie. It's great. And I don't know why more people haven't seen it. It's an animated movie. It's fun for the whole family. The humor moves at 100 miles an hour. I don't know why this isn't a classic across the board. I don't know why it's not a universally acclaimed classic. In my opinion, this is the one that should be the most recent classic Christmas movie for the whole family?
Well, I've never seen it.
You watched Hot Frosty.
I did. This was not one that came up. Like, it's just not one that came onto my radar, and it didn't come up when I searched Christmas movies on all the streaming services either.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
also,
John,
while we're talking about searching Christmas movies on streaming services, it's terrible to do because you just get a bunch of Hallmark and Netflix movies, and it is impossible to find actual good Christmas movies that way.
well, the problem is all of these places have their own Christmas movies.
Yeah.
So because they all have their own Christmas movies, they all want to promote their own Christmas movies. So like you can't go on Apple, first thing you're going to get is Spirited. And if you go on Netflix, you're going to get all of their movies. And if you so that's what makes it so annoying. They all want to put their originals, the Christmas Chronicles and all of that stuff, which actually I've never seen the Christmas Chronicles, but they all want to put those movies as close to the top as possible. And then a movie like Arthur Christmas just gets pushed down. This is such a good movie. If you haven't seen Arthur Christmas, which John somehow didn't, watch Arthur Christmas. It's great. It really is great. Now for my true number 5. And, we're really just cooking here with, now that I had this extra one in here. Nightmare Before Christmas. This is a Christmas movie. Definitely more of a Christmas movie than it is a Halloween movie. Don't really care what anybody says. I actually hadn't seen this movie since I was a child until this recent year. I find this movie to be unbelievably entertaining. Like, unbelievably entertaining. And I'm not ever going to be like a fanboy of this movie to the level of the diehard fans who love this movie. But this movie is so entertaining. The music in it is great. Danny Elfman does a fantastic job. What's This is just like one of the most perfect songs ever put in a movie. I freaking love that song. It looks great. Freaked out my wife really bad. She did not like the look of it at all. Hated it. But I loved it. And that's what's important. So yeah, this one, I know that this is probably a movie that would end up as number 1 on a lot of people's lists, to be honest. And for me, I put it here. It comes in at number 5. I think that's a good spot to put it. I gave it 4 stars when I watched it. I've been watching all of the Disney animated movies, everything Disney. So I'm talking Pixar, Disney, everything that was actually released theatrically. And that's animated. And so Nightmare Before Christmas came up on there. And that was why I ended up watching it when I watched it. Super entertaining movie. Loved it. So, yeah, that comes in as my number 5.
I was surprised this one didn't end up making my list. It was close. It was close because you got pushed out by a couple of things that fun take on. It's a very fun take on just like the music or just like the Halloween cross Christmas thing that, the idea of like, what's a holiday? How is it? And the fact that Christmas is like that often considered that ultimate holiday for a lot of people where it can like infect into other holidays a lot of the time. And I think it's become more poignant as this statement on that the further along we get to where we are at the point now where Halloween ends and we see Christmas decorations up in stores and things like that.
Yeah.
It's very fun and it's great. Yeah.
What did you give this movie?
3 stars.
Oh, okay. So you still gave it 3 stars. It just ultimately didn't quite get on your list. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know I just did 3 movies in a row, John, but I got to get ahead of you.
I know.
So I haven't been ahead of you all night. So I get to go again. Yeah, I make the rules here. I have The Muppet Christmas Carol as my number 4. Yay, we did it.
There we go. We did it.
So like I said, I knew that I knew when we were coming into it, I said to John before this podcast started, I said, I only have 9 movies. This is driving me crazy. I don't know why. And I literally had movies like crossed off and written over each other and everything. And I've been going back and forth, scratching it out. And this is why you should type things and not use hand notes. And there's A Muppet Christmas Carol lumped in there right between Nightmare Before Christmas and my other movie. Almost impossible to see because I crossed it off because we did this. But my number 4, this was a movie that I watched late. This is our movie for tomorrow. If you're a patron, you'll get this full review of The Muppet Christmas Carol from John and I. I just love this movie. Like, so fun, such a fun spin on it. Michael Caine's performance as Ebenezer Scrooge is solid. I love all of the Muppet humor in this movie. Everything with Gonzo and Rizzo is perfect, and the music is really good. Like, the music is so much better than it has any right to be, and the music in this movie should get more credit and should be more of the canon of Christmas music than it is. And yeah, I love it. So Muppet Christmas Carol coming in as my number 4.
Cool. Are we on my number 4 now? Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, you finally get to say another movie. I messed up. Your internet's cutting in and out. We're going to get through. We're going to get by.
Well, let's address just what Kevin Hernandez is saying. Would Rise of the Guardians be considered a Christmas movie? This was one of the movies I watched in the last 2 weeks, and ultimately I decided it didn't count as a Christmas movie. Yes, Santa Claus is a main character in it, but ultimately didn't quite feel like it was a Christmas movie, especially because it was set at Easter. That was really the driving point. It was set at Easter. If it was set at Christmas, probably makes it. Because honestly, that movie was a lot more enjoyable than I anticipated it being.
Yeah. I have actually never seen that movie. And that movie was coming up a lot. People were asking about that one a lot when we said we were doing this. And no, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, no, it was worth a watch. I quite enjoyed it, in all honesty. But again, not a Christmas movie. It didn't really fall into the Christmas genre in the end. But a movie that is absolutely a Christmas movie. It's the second newest movie on my list. It was nominated for Best Animated Picture when it came out.
Your internet cut just as you were going to say that. You literally hyped it up so well. That was actually a really good cut by your internet to be like, yeah, you're never going to know.
It's Klaus. It's Klaus from 2019.
Oh yeah, I love Klaus. So that Klaus is my number 3. So
there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, we can both talk about Klaus right now. Klaus is a beautiful, beautiful movie.
It's so well done. The animation in this movie is absolutely stunning. Honestly, the fact this movie lost Best Animated Picture to Toy Story 4 is unreal. There is
because nobody saw it.
I mean, that just goes to prove why Netflix shouldn't be making original movies, because that is the problem. This movie should have been everywhere. And it is a movie that I talk to a lot of people in my circles, and everyone loves this movie. This is one that I had seen before. And it is such an interesting and unique take himself. Just works so well. It has these little Easter eggs, despite the fact that it's a Christmas movie, not an Easter movie, throughout that really pay off, and they really show these little tiny moments. It has a phenomenal voice acting cast. Jason Schwartzman might be the most recognizable voice for me at all times. It's like, if I hear Jason Schwartzman speak, I'm like, that's Jason Schwartzman. There's no question about it. And it's kind of nice having J.K. Simmons not sound as J.K. Simmons as he usually does in this movie, because it kind of feels like it really plays more better into the movie because of that. He has the right feel for this role. And this movie gets incredibly emotional as it goes on. I just think it's such a clever way to go about it. It's so unique, and it is stunningly gorgeous.
Yeah, so my top 2 are my top 2, and they were always going to be my top 2. John and I ultimately decided that the one that I think we're both going to have at number 1 does qualify as a Christmas movie. And I think it was fair of us to do that. But my number 2 is a nostalgia movie that I think is perfect for what Christmas movies are supposed to be. And then my number 1 is just a perfect movie. Klaus is the most underrated Christmas movie of all time. Literally, there is never going to be a more underrated Christmas movie than this one. This will always be the most underrated Christmas movie of all time, because despite the fact that this was a Netflix movie, this movie got severely overlooked. Despite the fact that this got nominated for Best Picture or Best Animated Feature, this movie got severely overlooked. This is a movie that people are not watching on a yearly basis, and this is a movie that I'm watching on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
The story is so good. The postman who has to go up there and, and so like the postman, I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments and everybody just guessed us, but the postman who gets sent to this place, and then Klaus, and how it gets into the origin story of Santa, right? Like, what always makes me laugh is, do we really need an origin story for everything? No, we don't. But this origin story of Santa actually works so well. And it is so well told. And it is so unbelievably emotional. And like the voiceover by Jason Schwartzman as the movie is ending
Oh my
is
God.
just like I have chills literally. So like my legs, every hair on my legs just stood up. I love this movie so much. And like for me to put the Muppet Christmas Carol at 4 and a Nightmare Before Christmas at 5, that is how much I love Klaus. Like I love those movies, but Klaus is a movie that everybody needs to be watching. Like it's beautiful. So that is my number 3. And as you said, your number 4.
My number 4. One of my friends, I think, summed it up very well when I was like eliciting options for movies to watch, and I was like, yeah, of course Klaus is on my list. I already know that one. I need other ones. But he said, this is the movie that made me remember what it was like to be a kid on Christmas again.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how this movie feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is your number 3?
All right. We've gotten to the John likes sad movies part of the list now. This one isn't that sad, but it's definitely different. It's definitely the most different movie on my entire list, and it is Tokyo Godfathers. This is a Japanese anime film by the same guy who made Paprika and Perfect Blue, like very classic anime films. This is a movie about 3 homeless people in Tokyo who find a baby in the trash and try to return it to its family.
Okay.
And at first glance, it doesn't seem like much of a... It takes place on Christmas and like that week between Christmas and New Year's. And at first glance, it doesn't really seem like much of a Christmas movie. But then when you delve into it, you realize Christmas in Japan, which is so much different than what Christmas is. And it's almost to a point where it's really exaggerated in Japan, where it is so much the commercial aspect of Christmas because it's not a Christian nation, right? Like it's not a nation where Christian is the primary religion. So because of that, it doesn't have that religious connotation to it. But the movie really dissects this idea of the spiritualism of Japan without the religious aspect of Japan, where it's not really like most people don't recognize themselves as religious in Japan, but they do like have that spiritual practice that they follow still. It looks into that and it really invests. This is, I would say, the most religious film I have on this list. And it really just, it has such a huge commentary on that aspect, but also the consumerism and commercialism of Christmas in Japan, where almost every scene has a billboard in the background.
Okay.
And
it's
really
animated. Did you mention that?
Yeah, it's an animated film. It's an anime film. Yeah.
You did say anime. You're right.
And it's kind of a take on the John Ford 3 Godfathers film. Like the old John Ford Western film, but it's taking place at Christmas and it's 3 homeless people instead of 3 cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never seen this. I feel like you've piqued my interest. 2003.
Mm-hmm.
I will try to watch this one this year.
I do highly recommend it. It's a really poignant film and it really dissects kind of the way we look at Christmas. And that's a really interesting thing that I find about some of Christmas movies, because like we said, it has to take place at Christmas to kind of be a Christmas movie, but it also has to have these very like these themes that kind of percolate about Christmas. And this is a very found family type of movie that's also dealing with like consumerism and commercialism and the spiritual act of Christmas. So it just really, it kind of hit hard for me when I watched it.
Mm-hmm. So Kevin Hernandez he has a question mark here of Krampus. John, you're going to do your number 2 first. Is number 2 Krampus?
Number 2 is not Krampus. Krampus did not make my list. It came in, it got pushed down to 16. It's a fun one. It's like this fun, like campy horror for me.
Yeah, John at one point was talking about like when he was watching Krampus, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, where are you going with this? And then he was like, no, this one's actually really good. I was like, okay. So what is your number 2 then? Come on, John's internet. Come on, John. John. He's fighting through. I know. We're killing it. As long as you guys know what 10 movies we're talking about, which actually I had 11, you guys can go and watch 21 movies after this. John, what is your number 2? John. He just moved.
A Christmas Tale.
A Christmas Tale. Okay. A Christmas Tale. Actually,
Yeah.
Steve told
From
me to watch
2008.
this one. He told me that if I watch this one, you're watching all those bad movies, and then I can come in with a really, really good one. But I never got a chance to watch it. So,
well, good thing I did, because this movie is not what you expect out of a Christmas movie. This is not some happy Christmas movie. This is a very sad, depressing Christmas movie about this French family who are falling apart. The daughter has banned her brother from all family activities as part of the resolution of a lawsuit where she paid all of his debts. And the only reason they are coming together is because the matriarch of the family is dying of cancer. And this, I know it doesn't sound like this jolly Christmas movie, and it's not, but it's so beautiful. It's so well done. There's this unique style to it that we only really get in French cinema. It takes the family aspect of Christmas and looks at it, and it really investigates this part of Christmas I think a lot of people don't want to talk about. And that is the fact that Christmas isn't happy for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like this season because of what it does with the family, because a lot of people don't like spending time with their families. And a lot of people and the I don't know, just like the commercial.
While John is frozen, I'll just put up Yesenia
It's just
Martinez.
totally fine.
He is jolly looking. It fits. Freeze frame.
Yeah. But I mean, Phil, this has Matthew Almeric in it from The Butterfly and the Diamond Bell and the Butterfly. He plays like the kind of asshole brother character in this movie, and it's really well done. It really goes to show the family dynamic around it as it's taking place at Christmas, almost to the point where you kind of forget Christmas is there because it's focusing so much on how much this family just really despise each other.
I'll have to check that one out too. Like I said, Steve told me I got to check it out. So I will for sure check that one out. My number 2, I'm going to jump into this and I'm just going to say John not including this. He's just so incorrect, but that's okay. John's been wrong a lot. And hopefully when he goes to defend himself, he freezes. My number 2 is Elf. And Elf is exactly what a Christmas movie is supposed to be. It is 100% what a Christmas movie should be in every way, shape, and form. It has the childlike innocence. It has the over-the-top fun, like, moments. Every scene is great. It rushes through pretty much everything, which is a good thing. I like that. It gets through it. It has a very storybook feel for most of the movie, which then at the end of the movie, there's the storybook of Mr. Elf. I just think that this movie is so well done, and it's crazy that they never were able to make another Elf. This movie came all the way out in 2003, right? This movie came out 21 years ago, and somehow they have not been able to make another Elf. And I just am shocked by that. And I don't mean obviously a literal another remake of Elf. I mean why have we not found this type of Christmas magic again in the last 20 years? And I know you have A Christmas Tale. I have Arthur Christmas. Like both have Claus. Like we have movies that came out since this on our lists. But Elf is the last Universal Christmas film. It is the last one. Why is this the last one? Why haven't we been able to top this? Why haven't we been able to come up with something like this? And whether you like this movie, hate this movie, or indifferent to this movie, this is quintessential Christmas movie. And there has never been anything to come close to it in the last 20-something years. It's really crazy.
Does a lot of that have to do with the fact that the way we view Christmas movies has changed?
What do you mean?
This is a cable TV movie. This is the type of movie that dominated cable TV.
That's true.
At Christmas
that is
time,
true.
Right?
Yeah.
And
ABC Family every day in the 8 p.m. slot nonstop.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And with the downfall of cable TV, like we don't have those type of movies coming through anymore like we used to.
Yeah. No, that's a really fair point. That is a really fair point. And you know, I think nowadays too, like what are the movies that play on cable TV? If you do have cable TV, if you just put cable TV on in the background on Christmas Day, what's on? Elf, the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol, the what do you call it? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Where's my paper? How the Grinch Stole Christmas. The Santa Claus is on a lot. Look, there's a lot of movies that are on all the time, but it's the same stuff. And Elf is the last one that really got into that like syndicated role. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now I guess I do have to justify not having it on my list, right?
Yeah, you should probably. I just want to say this though before I even move on. I saw this in theaters when I was 12 years old with my dad and sister. My dad used to take me and my sister to the movies whenever my mom was wrapping presents. So like this was the thing, you know, we don't know that mom is home wrapping presents, but that's what was happening. We went to the theater and I remember like my dad will never admit that he cried during this movie, but he absolutely cried during this movie. At the end when Buddy goes flying over the thing, which I always thought was funny because my dad like wouldn't cry at any movies. And then this one is like the one that breaks him. But anyway, I just love this movie. I think this movie is great from start to finish. Will Ferrell's performance is just so funny. It's so innocent. It's so earnest and it's so hard to do that. Like, I don't think Will Ferrell gets the credit for what he's pulled off in his career. And Kevin Hernandez says, what about Batman Returns? We kind of decided Batman Returns doesn't count.
Yeah.
I know, but because it's a Batman movie first. That's really why we decided it doesn't count. But anyway, back to Will Ferrell. He does this so well. Peter Dinklage with his small role is very good. Yeah, it's just entertaining. And we watch this every year and it never gets old. And I look forward to every single scene. I have the shirt that says, "Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad," with the narwhal on it. Like, just love this movie. So anyway, justify why you don't have it here.
So to be fair, it did just miss my list. It was getting very close to being included at the bottom of my list. And the third act of this movie is absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely perfect Christmas movie, this third act of this movie. I'm just not a big fan of what leads into it. And I think it's just because the third act isn't quite set up enough for it to be really impactful. There's this little part of this movie that's missing for me, and it's the idea that there's no Christmas cheer in the world, and that's why Santa's sleigh is falling down, and like that's why Santa needs the cheer to go up so he can fly, right? It's kind of established at the beginning when Papa Elf is telling Buddy about it, but it doesn't in the interim. It's not like we see Buddy really like finding people who don't have Christmas spirit and starting to share that Christmas spirit as much.
Whoa, well, what about his dad?
Well, no.
What about the guy who runs Gimbals?
Yes, there are a few people, but it's not like to the extent where it seems like I don't know. It doesn't go quite far enough, in my opinion. It doesn't
What
really
about
establish.
The guy who throws snowballs?
Doesn't quite establish the lack of Christmas spirit in a lot of people because Christmas just does seem to be everywhere in the movie, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just if it did that, it would go there. And Elf is one of those movies. I think.
What about Zooey Deschanel?
Well, I mean, whatever, dude. She's Zooey Deschanel. I'm not a big.
Yeah, but she doesn't have Christmas spirit. She's miserable.
Yeah, I mean, she's also in a shower.
You're in trouble for this, man. I'm just gonna keep naming the people in the movie who don't have Christmas spirit.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think when you watch Elf is a 4-star movie. Every single time you watch it, I find when I think about it afterwards, where I question if it's still a 4-star movie. And ultimately, that's why it misses my list.
Okay, that's fair. Let's do our number one so I can get out of here because it's 10:37 here on the East Coast and I want to go to bed. And by go to bed, I mean I want to watch the end of this Broncos-Browns game. And by watch the end of that, I mean I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. So anyway, let's do our number one. We can say it in unison. This was a movie that we both added when we figured, you know what, this is a Christmas movie. It has to be a Christmas movie. We both watched it last year and said, wow, that's a Christmas movie. And then we almost left it off. And then you watched it and you were like, dude, this has to be a Christmas movie. So we both have The Holdovers at number one.
Yeah. It was a very easy choice once we decided it was actually a Christmas movie.
Yeah. You know what it is? And I talked about this when this movie came out last year. This movie it made me miss the cold. It made me miss the Northeast. It made me miss living in New Jersey and like being miserably cold and all of that. It made me miss all of that comes with a wintry Christmas. To do that is so hard because I live in Florida where it was 40 degrees this morning and you better believe that like I thought I was going to die. So it's like for that to happen, Paul Giamatti's performance is beautiful. The script is just fantastic. It's so heartfelt and it's so heartwarming. And it's just like, I don't know. It's not a family Christmas movie, which I think ultimately could lead some people to leave it off their lists, but it is a Christmas movie. It's just not a family Christmas movie, but it is a damn good movie. And it gets into everything that Christmas is supposed to be about: redemption, starting over, hope, family, friendship, looking back at your past and trying to understand, looking at your future. Yesenia Martinez says Oscar winner, Paul. No, he lost for this, which is really disappointing. But anyway, what do you got?
I upon rewatching this, if you see my latest letterbox review for this, I just simply said this movie was robbed at the Oscars.
It was.
Because it was. And it's really unfortunate that there was just so much hype around Oppenheimer last year that the people who deserve to win, and granted, it did win some Oscars, right? Divine Joy Randall wins for Best Supporting Actress, and well deserved. What a stunning performance. But more people should have won from this movie. Paul Giamatti. And ultimately, this, again, it's going into this dark side of Christmas, the side of where Christmas isn't happy for a lot of people. And this just shows it, right? It's this isolation and loneliness. Christmas also can drive people, but it is bringing people together too.
Yeah. You were cutting in and out, so you got like halfway there. We're going to wrap this up. That's our number one, The Holdovers, both of us. So like I said, I had to give an 11. So why don't we both go through ours real quick? I had 11, The Santa Claus, 10, Bad Santa, 9, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm sorry. I'm not even doing this right, dude. I butchered this. Number 11, The Santa Claus. Number 10, Bad Santa. Number 9, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm still putting the one up that has The Grinch Stole Christmas twice. Number 7, A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. I don't even have this. All right, you ready? I'm going to get this. Here we go. 11, The Santa Claus. 10, Bad Santa. 9, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. 8, A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. 7, Home Alone. 6, Arthur Christmas. 5, The Nightmare Before Christmas. 4, The Muppet Christmas Carol. 3, Claus. 2, Elf. 1, The Holdovers. Thank you for sticking with me. I can't believe I have How the Grinch Stole Christmas up there twice again. How the hell did that happen? Anyway, John, what do you have?
Number 10, Love Actually. Number 9, Jingle All the Way. Number 8, A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. Number 7, The Family Man. Number 6, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Number 5, Home Alone. Number 4, Klaus. 3, Tokyo Godfathers. 2, A Christmas Tale. And number 1, The Holdovers.
There you go. I know. And sorry, everybody, when I started this off, I had the movie in the wrong spot. Kevin Hernandez will close on this. The Holdovers is one of the realest Christmas movies. Why people don't think Christmas movie. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a patron, patreon.com/the specialist. We have the Muppet Christmas Carol coming out tomorrow. Harold and Kumar Christmas coming out on the 10th. Our next topic for our top 10 movies is going to be the top 10 movies that came out on Christmas Day. Christmas Eve might count in there too, but either way, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And then we're going to end the year on the 30th with our year recap. We always do a year rewind. I haven't seen that many movies this year, so I maybe have to try to get some in before then. But thank you all so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. John, go reset your router. Everybody else, we'll see you all in 2 weeks.